Honda. Good afternoon and welcome to 3 in the Key. I'm your host, Ben Allen. In case you've missed it, the NBA playoffs have already been intense and Miles Turner has a very big decision coming up. But before we get to all of that later, Kerry Gaines, former KGHK sports director, will join us for a Skype interview to talk basketball. But before all that, let's get you up to date on what you missed. Well, Albert Pujols has joined the 500 home run club. Yesterday against the Nationals, he blasted 2 home runs to launch himself into the club. Pujols is now the 3rd youngest to reach this mark. The next question will be, can Pujols keep up his success and ultimately take a stab at the home run king, Barry Bonds? The Chicago Bulls are really missing Derrick Rose right now. The Bulls dropped their 2nd home game last night to the Wizards in overtime. The Wizards had great success from John Wall and Bradley Beal last night, who did not show up in the first game of the series. The winner of this series will face off against the winner of the Pacers and Hawks series. The NBA has named their most improved player of the year, Goran Dragic, the Phoenix Suns. Point guard has earned the hardware. Dragic, who opened the season only putting up 9 points, put up a career-high 20 points a game this season while leading the Suns to 48 wins and just missing the playoffs in the West. Now that you're up to date, let's take a break, but when we return, former KGHK sports director Kerry Gaines will be here with us. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to 3 in the Key. Now with us via Skype is Kerry Gaines of 1410 KGSO. Kerry, how you doing, buddy?
Ben, I'm doing great. How are you doing yourself?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in almost full semester now. It's good to see you virtually, but good just to see you all together.
I know you can't touch me right here, and I know you want to, but it's good to be here with you. I'm glad to be talking to my fellow Lawrencians again, all the way here from Wichita. So it's very nice.
Awesome.
Put it that way.
Well, thanks, Kerry. Okay, so you've been out in Wichita and you've been able to be around a lot of sports, and obviously the big story from Wichita, Kansas this year has been the Wichita State Shockers, who ultimately fell a little bit earlier than people were expecting in the tournament to Kentucky. What was your opinion on the situation and them going out early in the tournament?
It was tough because Kentucky, it was a team that nobody really knew what they were capable of until they got into the tournament, and I heard John Calipari talk about it, and he made some changes with one of the Harrison twins, I believe Aaron, if he's the point guard. They made some changes with him. They made some changes with Julius Randle down low, and it really showed all of Kentucky's potential right there. Wichita State, I mean, they got a bad draw. They were an extremely talented team, from Fred VanVleet all the way to Cleanthony Early, Ron Baker. The whole team, was extremely talented. You've got a guy like Nick Wiggins coming off the bench. So just from that right there, they had a really great team, and it's unfortunate to see them go out so early, but it was a good story. The whole city of Wichita, a little bit disappointed with the early exit coming off of Final Four. Well, not victory, but a Final Four appearance last year. So it was tough, but you know what? They had a great season. They still broke the record for one of the best regular season in history, going undefeated. So that was cool to that point, but they've got a lot of people returning, and next year should be just about as good, if not better, than this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think are the realistic expectations going into next season for Wichita State?
I don't see them being higher than a 4 seed in the tournament next year, but I do see them having some potential to go deep in the tournament. It really depends on who they play and how their schedule winds up. I think, not playing anybody worth a damn other than St. Louis really hurt Wichita State this year, and once they got into tournament time, they may not have known exactly how to react against a team who's that good, but it will be interesting to see how their schedule plays out this year, and if they get some good opponents in the non-con, count on Wichita State being well prepared for the tournament next year and making a deep run.
All right, so let's talk about your favorite sport. Everyone knows from around here you're a huge football guy and a huge Eagles fan at that. You guys just lost to Sean Jackson. He's now going to one of the rival Redskin team. What did you think about that whole situation in Philadelphia?
I looked at it a lot of different ways, but when it boils down to it, I had to look at it. Does Deshaun Jackson make stupid decisions? Yes. Does he piss you off on and off the field? Yes. Does he do stupid things like throw up gang signs in Instagram pictures and against other teams? Yes. And it was just time to cut ties with Deshaun. I hated to see him go. You know, I've got a Deshaun Jackson jersey. He was one of my favorite players growing up, but it almost came down to it. Is he worse for the team than he is better? And, you know, when you are an NFL fan, you have to invest all of your faith into the coach. So as of right now, I got to go off what Chip Kelly says, what Howie Roseman, the decisions he's making up above, and hopefully it'll work out for the better. Does it hurt seeing Deshaun Jackson go to the hated Redskins? Yes. Have the Redskins been a joke for the past couple years? Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm not ever really worried about the Redskins being an Eagles fan. However, yeah, it's sad to see him go, and it'll be tough, but I'm just hoping it's all for the better, and hopefully, you know, they can make some decisions in the draft that'll end up benefiting them and end up being better off without him.
Another jersey that is of the Eagles that I actually owned was of Michael Vick, which is now considered an old jersey. What do you think are the realistic expectations for Vick being the quarterback for the Jets this year? Do you think he'll be the starter over Geno Smith?
It'll be interesting to see. You know, Geno Smith still has a lot of untapped potential that we haven't seen yet. Michael Vick is on the downward spiral of his career. So it's really going to come down to, does Geno Smith throw 3 interceptions a game and have a 40 or 50 quarterback rating? If that's the case, then yeah, you can count on seeing Michael Vick starting at least a couple games for the Giants next year. But if not, you know, I don't expect Michael Vick to be the future of the Giants
the Jets. The Jets.
Did I say Giants? The Jets. The other New York team. I don't see Michael Vick being a starter for the Jets long term. But yeah, you could see him get into a couple games this year.
All right, now looking at one of the more local teams out here, the Kansas City Chiefs. They've lost a lot of guys in the offseason and not a lot of pickups at all. And one of the guys that a lot of people thought they should have picked up was Deshaun Jackson. But what do you think they will look to do in the draft this year?
That's a great question, Ben. And I've followed Andy Reid, as you know, since he's been a coach and since he drafted Donovan McNabb in 1999. Since then, though, he's only drafted 2 wide receivers in the first round. Those 2 guys are Jeremy Maclin and Freddie Mitchell. One of them, Jeremy Maclin, still could be a good player, you know, not an elite guy like they may have hoped. He doesn't have the speed that he did when he got drafted. And Freddie Mitchell was a complete bust. He had I think it was 1 great catch for the Eagles in the playoffs. But other than that, he didn't do a single thing for that Eagles team. I do think the Chiefs are going to go wide receiver, though. That's only because the Chiefs have a hole at wide receiver. However, from what I've noticed, Andy Reid doesn't really value his receivers. They went away with, you know, Todd Pinkston, James Thrash, and then Terrell Owens was the only real receiver the Eagles had, and that was for a 2-year span. But I'm going to go ahead and guess Odell Beckham out of LSU. The other guy to watch out for is Marquise Lee. I think he'll be available at that time. But Andy Reid, he loves his defensive pass rushers. He's probably not going to draft a safety like the Chiefs may need, mainly because there's not going to be a good safety available where the Chiefs are picking. But, you know, if you're asking me to guess today, I'm going to go ahead and say Beckham.
Okay. Well, we'll get you out here on this last question here. It's NBA time, and everyone's curious who's going to ultimately win it all this year. Kerry Gaines?
This is an interesting year for the NBA, and usually I'm one of those guys who says I could care less about the NBA because I know who's going to win it from the get-go. It's going to be the Heat. Mm-hmm. However, this year, you know, you're seeing a little bit of a different situation play out. The Heat this has to be the weakest Heat team since LeBron James came. So I think it'll be interesting. You know, they've got Charlotte first round, then Toronto or Brooklyn. They should be able to handle it all the way to the finals. I mean, with Roy Hibbert playing terribly, I don't see Paul George taking the Pacers too far. I'm going to go ahead and say the Heat are going to make it to the finals. Who they're going to play there? Probably Oklahoma City, possibly the Spurs. But, you know, the more I think about it, I'm just going to have to go with the Heat to win it all. I cannot picture a scenario where the Heat do not win it all.
Well, I'm right there with you.
Who do you have, Ben? That's what I want to know.
Well, honestly, I've been looking at it a little bit, and I have to take a little bit of hometown bias here. I think the Wizards could hang with the Heat. This is, of course, if the Wizards can make it past either the Pacers or the Hawks. But I think, is there a team that could ultimately, I love that you're laying back in the chair now. I love that they could take on possibly them, and, we'll see. I think it's going to be the Heat and the Thunder in the finals. But ultimately,
I'm going to go ahead and pick the exact same finals. The Wizards, they're showing a side, we've never seen the Wizards do something like they've done this year. But Ben, I'm sorely mistaken. They are not going to win it all this year.
All right. Well, Kerry, we want to thank you again for coming on, and we hopefully will get to speak to you very soon again.
Yes, thanks for having me, Ben. Good luck with everything, and I love the show.
Thanks so much, Kerry. When we return, Hank Cavagnaro, Joey Franzetta, and Tim Cornell will join the desk to debate. Stay tuned.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Well, welcome back to 3 in the Key. And as promised, we are going through with our debate idea, which we've now been running strong for, I think, about 4 weeks now. And we will continue to do our point system today. And let's go ahead and get you introduced to who's here today. From KUJH, we have Hank Cavagnaro. We have Mr. Tim Cornell from KJHK. And we have Joey Franzetta, who is one of the coaches of a lot of the local teams and a friend of mine and a fan as well. So let's go ahead and get you guys started on what the questions are for today. First question. The Bulls last night, they were playing the Wizards, and it kind of shook the outlook of what the East has been so far. The Bulls coming in were considered one of the better teams in the East, and they now look like one of the teams that are going to be out quickly. In your opinion, if you guys agree with this fact, in addition to the Heat, who will be the team to contend with the Heat in the East?
All right, I'll jump on this first. So the Heat, they're going to make it. They're going to make it to the finals. They're probably going to make it to the finals, NBA Finals, and win. But I think the team, I hate to agree with Ben, but the Wizards are playing the hottest basketball at this point in time. And those are the ones that's how you win. Like, you look at any sport, you look at March Madness, whoever's playing hottest near the end of the tournament, that's who wins. So I think the Wizards are going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they'll beat the Heat, but they'll put up a run for their money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really safe bet. Before, or most of the season, it was Pacers, and people even thought they could make it to the finals. They've been struggling. They demolished a bad Hawks team in the second half of the game last night. If they can get any momentum, I could see them, I think they're going to win the Hawks series either way, but I could see them getting past the Wizards. I think the Wizards are good. They're playing great right now, but I also think the Bulls just have a lot of issues, and the Wizards are exploiting a lot of those problems.
I'm going to have to go with the Wizards just based on what we saw in the NCAA tournament with UConn. Two dominant guards can get you almost anywhere. So between Bradley Beal and John Wall, I think they're going to be able to go a long way.
I think the team I want to pick is the Nets, but of course they would, if they got past the Raptors, they'd play the Heat in the second round, so they wouldn't be able to meet in the conference finals. But that would be a great matchup because the Nets swept the Heat in the regular series.
Well, the Nets have to get past the Raptors first, and they're also playing great ball this time, and they're higher seed. It's just the East. It's like we thought it was 1 and 2, and then everybody else, and now we see it's 1 and everybody else. The Pacers have, I believe, lost. Besides their win, it would make it. They've lost 11 out of the last 16, I believe. They've lost so many games at the back end of the season, essentially since they lost Danny Granger, since they traded him. You look at that, and they've gone downhill. I think they'll make it out of the Hawks series, but it's making it out of it. It's not showing who they are. So I think then Wizards are going to make it out of the Bulls. Pacers, a team that's not playing well, versus the Wizards, a team that's playing amazing basketball. You got to go with Wizards.
To the guy who got the first word of the game, he is going to be getting the first point of the game. Hank will be getting our first point of the game so far.
All right.
Second question. Albert Pujols hit his 500th home run last night and has now launched himself into the top 30 guys in home runs all time. I believe it's 27th overall. My question to you guys is, on his hot streak, will Albert Pujols be able to ultimately catch up to Mr. Barry Bonds?
I don't think so, but I think he's going to get really close. I looked up some stats, did some calculating, and some interesting things popped up. And Pujols is in his 14th season. Barry Bonds played 22, which is a long time. If Pujols, at the rate he's going, he's averaging 41 home runs per 162 games. If he can average 35 even, it'll get him really, really close. And that's if he can average it for the rest of his contract with the Angels in 2021, that's a really long time. But he is on, youth-wise, he's on pace to beat it. I think the most interesting stat I saw is in Bonds' career, he averaged 41 home runs per 162 games also. So if Pujols can keep up the rate, he's struggled the past couple seasons, injured last season. His first season with the Angels wasn't good, but of course this season he's already got 8, and he's looking pretty hot. So if he can, get 40-ish this season or more and keep it going, it's just health. How long can he play really? But I think he could be top 5.
Yeah, and to go off that point about health, I really think he needs to switch to a full-time DH, kind of like how Billy Butler does with the Royals, to be able to pass Barry Bonds. That's what Barry Bonds was the back half of his career. I mean, sitting out there in first base, you take a lot of hits. I mean, a lot of stepping on ankles, that kind of stuff. So I think health's going to be his big thing. I think a full-time DH would make him probably with Barry Bonds. I don't think he'll pass him regardless, but...
Well, I mean, Barry Bonds played in the NL, so he wasn't necessarily a full-time DH his entire career. But I think you look at it now, Pujols got to 514 seasons, right? And then Bonds, it took him 15. But Bonds was also still going strong when he hit 15, when he was hitting 500. So you got to look. Pujols has dropped off since he left St. Louis, really. So I don't think he'll make it there at all. I mean, he'll get close, yeah, but he's not going to be contending for it by the end of his career. He's definitely on his downswing, where 35 home runs was what is a lot of home runs for someone on their downswing.
It is. But I definitely don't think he's going to pass Bonds. Bonds, one of my favorites from my hometown, so got to give some love to Riverside, California there. And, he, of course, hit 73 home runs in a season. Pujols will never get close to anything like that.
You guys got to pick up the energy a little bit here. We don't see it. I brought you guys on to get some energy going up in here, and it's been pretty quiet. So the second point is going to have to go to the guy who's just the number cruncher, Mr. Tim Cornell. Tim will now be on the board. Joe, you're lagging behind there, buddy. Got to get everything going here.
I better step up.
You guys got to keep going. All right.
Next
Third question here. Miles Turner. He's one of the best players in the country. He's now ranked number 2 according to ESPN out of high school. Where's he going? Is he going to come to Texas, or is he going to Kansas? Or somewhere else?
Well, the fan in me wants him to go to KU, obviously, but I think the big downfall for him coming to KU would be having to compete with Perry Ellis and Cliff Alexander for playing time. I really think he's going to SMU. With Larry Brown there with the NBA experience, that'll really help him mature up since he's not one of the top, what is he, number 4 right now? 2?
He's 2 on ESPN.
Oh, wow. Well, I saw 4 somewhere, so. I think Larry Brown will just help him, and then Emmanuel Mudiay, that will just help him with an elite point guard like him helping out. I mean, I think the sky's the limit with him with Larry Brown.
Yeah, for him, SMU would definitely be a good destination to end up. Like you said, Larry Brown, you got there. But I think Kansas might be his best option. If he's looking for a title, which player isn't, with how much we have returning, how much power we have returning, even competing for a spot, if you're willing to be in a 3-man rotation, which Bill Self can work 3 big men, he's been known to do it, then that is just hard for the other teams to contend with. Some people think he's going to go to Texas, but he has even more to contend with in Texas than he would coming to Kansas. Yep. So his best bet, I personally think, not only as a fan, but also as just looking at the situation, Kansas is his best bet.
Yeah, I agree with Kansas, and I tried to think about this not being just a fan of KU and stuff, but it just makes the most sense. He's going to have a lot of competition coming here. That'll make him better. And I'm hoping what happened at the Jordan Brand Classic, he was there, he wasn't playing, but also someone we know well, Joel Embiid, was there. I'm thinking Embiid might have pulled him aside, talked to him, and been like, look, I went to KU also. I was the number 1 center in the nation coming out of high school. I didn't start either, but look what happened to me. I worked my way in, got the spot, and now could be a potential number 1 draft
pick. He
pick.
actually did talk to him at the Jordan Brand Classic.
Yeah.
Cliff Alexander was talking to media saying that him, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid were all talking to him, all trying to just telling him, like, it's a good program. Turner and Alexander were on the same team in the McDonald's All-American game. They were both on the E squad, and they just had a couple little dishes off to each other. I mean, Miles Turner wasn't playing his best basketball. Alexander was hurt, obviously. But those two just kind of, they were talking on the bench. Like, they would show it. They were talking, and he wasn't sure at the time. But I really think Kansas is definitely a good destination for him.
Yeah, another thing that I could say about him going to Kansas, too, is that you can just see the impact Embiid had when he left KU, like with his injury. So, I mean, if you can get someone to just step in there like Miles Turner, I'm not saying Miles Turner is going to be the next Joel Embiid. I mean, that would be awesome for KU fans, but I don't think it's going to happen. But you can see the void that Joel Embiid had. I think KU is a Final Four team with Embiid. Without, obviously, you saw that got to the round of 32. So, I mean, that's just another way that I think you go to
I mean,
Kansas.
I think this next year, even without Miles Turner, we could still be a Final Four team.
Oh, yeah.
Still have,
definitely.
With just the returners, like you said it, Perry Ellis and Cliff Alexander, even though he's not a returner, that's still going to be so much power that teams have to contend with. And having Jamari Traylor come off the bench, he's a spark plug. He's just full of energy. So you just got to look. We are definitely a Final Four contender, if not a national championship contender next year, even without Miles Turner.
I really think you need to look at Hunter Mickelson, too. He, at one point during the season, he did have a higher block average than Joel Embiid per possession.
We're cutting you off here, Joey, but disagreeing is always a great way to get points. So to tie everything up, Joey is now on the board with a score of 1-1-1. Going on to our fourth question. We got this one and one more, guys, so definitely try to make your last points here and get everything strong.
Yeah.
It's draft time. The NBA has pretty much now announced the NCAA has announced who all of their freshmen will be entering the draft with about 2 more days to go. The top guys are Randall, Wiggins, Embiid, and a few other names. Who do you guys think will be the first pick taken in the draft if the Milwaukee Bucks, who had the worst record of the season in the NBA, pick first?
If it's the Milwaukee Bucks, it's Andrew Wiggins. Because if you're looking at a team who might be able to start contending sooner, you got to look at Jabari Parker's number. He's the most NBA ready at this moment. But Wiggins is the best for long term. He still has a little bit of growth. And what you really need is, it shows in the league, you need a small forward. You need someone who can go out there and just play ball and score, and that's what Wiggins was showing, granted in small bursts, near the end of the season, especially the West Virginia game. He could just go out there and score and dominate a game.
Oh, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I'm going to have to
Wow,
go
a
with
disagreement.
I'm going to have to go with Jabari Parker. I mean, he's like you said, he's the most NBA ready. I mean, the only knock I have on Jabari Parker is I think he might have hit his full potential. I don't think he has much more left to go. I think Coach K got about everything out of him. But Wiggins, I don't know. You have to come in, bring it day in, day out in the NBA. And I mean, as much as I liked Wiggins, he didn't do that at KU, and he didn't really show me that much to that.
I think Wiggins will definitely be the number 1 pick if the Bucks have it. I think he's gonna wow at the combine way more than Parker will. And Embiid just has too many questions with his back, and he's just too much of a project for the Bucks, who just really need some help. There's so many questions around the Bucks in general, though, because the team just got sold. And I think the Bucks, though, of the top, of the lottery teams, are the only team that will take just the best player. So, if the 76ers get the pick, I think they'd probably take Wiggins also, but they'd be less likely to take like Dante Exum or because they have a point guard, a tall point guard, stuff like that.
Throwing out names here.
But I think the Bucks just need whoever's the best, and I think Parker is definitely the most NBA ready. But like you said, he's probably pretty close to his ceiling. He's going to have a good career. He could be an all-star a couple times. But Wiggins, and I think Wiggins' game is he's going to translate much better to the NBA. So I think he does have the work ethic, and I think his skills will see him do better right off the bat in the NBA than he did right off the bat in college basketball.
As long as you're not a Stephen A. Smith as a name dropper, being a name dropper is pretty good. Tim Cornell, you're getting the second point here. And for our last question, you guys have 30 seconds each to answer, sticking with the draft topic. Who will be the first pick in the NFL draft this year?
Khalil Mack, out of University of Buffalo, hands down. He's great. It's either him or Jadeveon Clowney. I just think Khalil Mack, he's just, I don't know, there's something about him that I think they're going to take in Buffalo, and it's going to work better than if they took Jadeveon Clowney.
Did I mention this point is worth 2 points? So make sure you guys definitely get your good points in here.
I just think it'll be Jadeveon Clowney. Just he's the other name you mentioned. He just has this reputation as a bruiser. He's just had great season after great season. He's a hard worker. He wants to be the best at the position he's at, and I'm not saying that Mack is a good pick because he'll be great also. I just think that Jadeveon Clowney is the obvious
Jadeveon
choice.
Clowney also has the reputation of drinking and driving and getting 2 DUIs.
Who doesn't in the NFL though?
A lot of players. A lot of players don't.
We'll go to Denver and you can roll up a joint and watch
Well, that's
that
a little
too.
bit different than a DUI.
Yeah, a
Denver
little
has
bit.
their own rules.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Johnny Manziel. I mean, he's just a spark plug. He's one of the only players you can turn on the TV and you're gonna go turn to a Texas A&M game. I mean, how many South Carolina games were you gonna go watch just because of Jadeveon Clowney?
I can tell you I watched
I
3.
turned to a lot more Texas A&M games during the year
But that's
just
true,
to watch
but
Johnny.
the Bills
I
also
don't-
have a quarterback.
Yeah, and I also don't think Johnny
They
Manziel's
drafted
the
a
number.
quarterback in the first round last year.
Yeah, Manziel's not the number 1 quarterback even in my opinion. I definitely don't think he's gonna go.
He has the it factor, though. I mean,
That doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL.
I think it does.
You
I
know
mean,
who
there's not
else
very many.
has the it factor? Joey Franzetta, our winner for today.
go.
Want to thank Joey, Hank, Tim, and Kerry for coming on today. We're glad you guys were here with us. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at 3InKey. As for now, I'm Ben Allen. This has been 3 in the Key. We'll see you next week.